Have you ever wondered why an injury you thought had healed years ago suddenly comes back to haunt you in your 50s or 60s? Why something as simple as twisting open a jar, lifting a coffee cup, or clicking a computer mouse can set off that sharp, burning pain in your elbow? Hi, I'm Dr. Ethan Greenwell. At 60 years old, I've spent more than 3 decades helping patients, from rock climbers and tennis players to office workers, break free from the endless cycle of pain, rest, and pain again. And I can tell you this, the problem isn't your age. It's how your body heals or fails to heal after an injury. My story, and the story of so many of my patients. Over 20 years ago, I thought I was invincible. I practiced jujitsu, let my arm get hyperextended more times than I can count. I'd ice it, wrap it, and go right back to training. Back then, I truly believed a few days' rest was all I needed. But science says otherwise. Every time you push through and keep going on an injury that hasn't fully healed, you're quietly stacking up microscopic tears in the tendons and tissues around the joint. Those tears don't just vanish. They leave scar tissue. And if those collagen fibers in the scar aren't aligned in the direction of the forces they need to handle, they're weaker than the original tissue, like a rope that's been twisted wrong. The result? You rest for a while, you feel fine. Then you get back to the sport you love. And within weeks, the pain flares up, often worse than before. The real reason behind this cycle. When most people think of elbow pain, they think of tennis, elbow lateral epicondylitis, or golfer's elbow medial epicondylitis. But in reality, the cause can be more complex. Joint capsule injuries or bursitis, triceps tendon injuries near the elbow, or a mix of factors, poor posture at work, repetitive force over time, and muscle imbalances from your shoulder all the way to your wrist. The common thread, it all comes down to mechanical load and how your tissue responds to that load. Our bodies are incredible at adapting. When you apply the right kind of force in the right amount, the fibroblast cells in your tendons reorganize collagen fibers along the proper lines of stress, making the tissue stronger. But if you don't send the right load signal, your body just patches the area with random messy collagen, weak and ready to fail again. The science. Why rest alone often fails. Many studies, including research by Dr. Jill Cook from La Trobe University in Australia, show that total rest after a tendon injury doesn't restore the tendon to its original condition. Without mechanical stimulation, new collagen fibers grow in a chaotic, unorganized way. The best recovery happens when the tissue is loaded in a controlled way, especially with isometric exercises. That's why so many of my patients, even those who've had injections or surgery, still struggle if they skip this step of controlled loading. The key: signal versus wear. I tell my patients to think about 2 things, signal and wear. Signal is the stimulus that tells your cells to rebuild stronger, healthier tissue. Wear is the extra damage that causes inflammation and slows healing. The secret is to maximize the signal and minimize the wear. And here's the good news. You don't need expensive gear or a fancy gym to do it. With a few simple tools you probably already have at home, and just 10 minutes a day, you can send the right signal to your injured tissue and help it heal in the direction it needs to. What you're going to learn today, I'm going to show you how to tell the difference between the types of elbow pain so you don't confuse one cause for another. The golden rule of load control, and why you should keep pain at 2 out of 10 or less during rehab. The difference between overcoming isometric and yielding isometric exercises, and why you should start with one before progressing to the other. My simple 10-minute routine that I've used on myself and hundreds of patients, along with nutrition tips to speed up tendon healing. And I'll be honest with you, if you're hoping for a miracle cure that takes your pain away instantly, this isn't the video for you. But if you're ready to break free from the pain, rest, pain cycle, rebuild trust in your body, and get back to the sport or work you love, then stay with me. Because just 10 minutes a day, starting today, could change the rest of your life with these 2 hands of yours. Understanding chronic elbow pain. You know, a lot of people walk into my clinic, sit down, and start with the same line, Dr. Ethan. I think it's just a muscle ache. A few days of rest and I'll be fine. But then weeks, sometimes months go by, and the pain is still there. It even finds its way into the most ordinary moments. Holding a warm cup of tea in the morning, opening a jar of jam, or simply typing on a keyboard. Here's something most people don't realize: chronic elbow pain isn't just one sore spot. It's the long story of what's been happening to your tissues, tendons, joints, and the way your body has been responding over the years. I had a patient named Harold, 64 years old, a former amateur tennis player. He told me that in his younger days his wrists and elbows were as solid as steel. But in recent years, just a few swings of the racket, and the pain would flare up again. At first he thought all he needed was a wrap and a bit of rest. The problem was, every time he rested to heal and then went back to the court, the pain returned, like an uninvited guest showing up at the door. For Harold, the cause wasn't just tennis elbow, that familiar phrase everyone's heard, but a collection of small changes that had built up over time: a minor fall in his 50s, thousands of hours, gripping the racket unevenly, and the habit of hunching his shoulders when he was tired. Put all of that together, and you get the full picture of an elbow that simply doesn't work the way it used to. Here's what I want you to remember. Chronic elbow pain can come from many sources: tendon inflammation on the outside or inside of the elbow, damage to the joint capsule or bursa, muscle imbalances between the shoulder, forearm, and hand. But deeper than that, it's the story of how the tissue was damaged and how it was, or wasn't, guided to heal in the right direction. Every collagen fiber, every tendon strand, needs to learn how to line up along the direction of force again. And if they aren't taught through the right kind of exercises, they'll heal in a messy, weak way, prone to tearing again. I often ask my patients, if you were rebuilding a bridge, would you want the steel beams lined up straight and parallel, or crisscrossed and crooked? Your body is the same. It needs guidance to rebuild its own bridge, one careful step at a time. Today's small lesson. Don't just think it's a sore muscle or my tendon's a bit tired. See it as a long story, where every chapter is shaped by how you've treated your body over the years. If you truly understand the cause, you can write a different ending to that story. And once we understand why the pain keeps following you, then we can finally talk about how to break out of that cycle. In the next part, I'll share with you why this pain keeps coming back, and how to break the rest-pain-rest cycle once and for all. Why does the pain keep coming back? You know, elbow pain is a lot like an old friend. The kind you thought had left your life for good, and then one day, right when you're lost in something you love, it shows up at your door, unannounced. Many of my patients ask me, "Doc, I took months off, felt completely fine. So why is it that just a couple of tennis matches or a few climbing sessions and the pain is right back again?" The truth is, it's not about how long you rested. It's about how your body recovered during that time. I remember a patient named Linda, 58 years old. She used to be an art teacher, passionate about painting and pottery. A few years ago, her elbow began to ache, a dull, nagging pain. Linda did what most people believe is the right thing. She stopped completely. She packed away her pottery wheel, put down her paintbrushes, even asked her husband to open jars in the morning. 3 months later, she felt fine. But the first time she returned to her pottery wheel, within just 20 minutes, the pain flared up worse than before. Why? Because during those months of rest, her tendons had forgotten how to line up collagen fibers in the direction of force. When she returned to her familiar motions, those weak tissues couldn't handle the load, and the injury repeated itself. And this doesn't just happen to artists or athletes. It happens to all of us. When you lift a heavy bag you haven't carried in months, when you go back to a sport you love after years away, or even when you repeat the same small motion over and over at work. The body is like a guitar. If you leave it unstrung for too long, it can't produce the right notes even if you play your favorite song. And if you strum hard on those old brittle strings, they might snap. Research has shown that complete rest only reduces inflammation temporarily. It doesn't restore the tendon's strength or structure. Tendons need to be trained in a controlled way to relearn how to work under load. If you skip that every time you return to activity, it's like sending an unfinished bridge into a storm, and the bridge will collapse. I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you actually trained your elbow, not just used it? Are you waiting for it to magically get better? Or are you actively helping it get stronger? Today's small lesson. Rest is necessary, but it's not everything. True healing doesn't come from avoiding all activity. It comes from reintroducing the right activity in a way your body can tolerate and grow from. And to do that, you need to understand the difference between two things: the signals that promote healing and the wear that causes more damage. In the next part, I'll share with you the concept I call signal versus wear, the secret that's helped me and hundreds of my patients break the pain-rest-pain cycle for good. Signal versus wear, the balance between healing and harm. Have you ever wondered why some people do just a little exercise and recover beautifully, while others train hard every single day, yet the pain never leaves? I call this signal versus wear. Signal is the message you send to your body with each movement, each bit of force telling it, hey, this tissue needs to get stronger. Fix it in this direction. Where is the damage you cause when you push your body past what it can handle, tearing into an old injury, making it worse? The tricky part is, most of us don't realize whether we're sending a signal or causing wear. And sometimes we think we're training to recover, but in reality we're quietly eroding the very thing we're trying to save. I remember a patient named Mark, 62, a passionate golfer. After developing elbow pain, he searched the internet for rehab exercises and started following a bunch of videos. Every single day he worked up a sweat. But 3 weeks later, the pain hadn't improved. In fact, it had spread down his forearm. When I asked Mark on a scale from 1 to 10, how much pain do you feel while exercising? He laughed, maybe a 6. But I always thought, no pain, no gain, right? The truth is, your body doesn't heal like a gym muscle that grows bigger under heavy weights. When recovering from an injury, the golden rule is this: keep your pain level at 2 out of 10 or less while training. That's how you create signal without creating too much wear. I like to compare tendon rehab to teaching a child to walk. You want them to take steady, confident steps, not force them into a sprint from day one. If you make them run too soon, they'll fall and you'll have to start all over again. So how do you send a strong healing signal without causing harm? Start with less load than you think you need. Increase slowly so your body has time to hear and understand the message. Avoid sudden jerks or abrupt loading. Always ask yourself, do I feel better after this session, or worse? Today's small lesson: recovery isn't a race. The goal isn't to do the most, it's to do enough for your body to understand what you want. Between signal and wear, choose the path of patience, because that's the only road that truly leads to healing. And once you understand this principle, we can move on to the safest starting point for sending signals with almost no added wear. In the next part, I'll share with you a method I call overcoming isometric, a simple approach you can do right at home, and the perfect first step for anyone looking to heal chronic elbow pain. The golden rule: load control and pain level. You know, most of my patients believe that to recover faster, they need to train harder or push heavier. But your body isn't a machine where you can just swap out a broken part and be good to go. It's more like a garden, and you can't dump 50 liters of water on it in one day and expect it to grow 50 times faster. Load control is simply choosing the right amount of water for that garden. And your pain level. That's the thermometer telling you whether your plants are soaking it in or drowning. I had a patient named James, 67, a retired civil engineer. James is the type of man who believes if you're going to do it, give it everything you've got. So when he started his elbow rehab, he always tried lifting the heaviest weight he could manage. The first week, he felt a little better. By the second week, the pain came roaring back even worse than before. When I asked him, James, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much pain do you feel when you train? He said, about a 5, sometimes a 6. But I figured no pain, no gain, right? The truth is, for tendon rehab, pain at a 5 or 6 out of 10 isn't a good sign. This isn't bodybuilding where muscle soreness might mean growth. In recovery, the ideal pain level is 2 out of 10 or less. That means you feel a little tension, a little pressure, but it's fully manageable. After your session, the pain doesn't spike, and the next day you can still use your arm normally. I often tell my patients, train at a level you can sustain for weeks, not just one heroic session. Because the body needs time and repetition, not your strongest push, to relearn how to handle load. So ask yourself, when was the last time you trained while keeping your pain its 210? Are you giving your body the patience it needs to adapt? Or are you making it run before it's ready to walk? Today's small lesson. Successful recovery isn't about pushing to your limit. It's about training within your limit, the place where your body can adapt and grow stronger, little by little, day by day. And once you understand this principle, you'll be ready for what I believe is the safest way to start healing your elbow, overcoming isometric. In the next part, I'll walk you through exactly how to do it at home with just a few simple tools, but with the power to make a big difference in your recovery journey. Overcoming isometric, the safest first step. You know, some recovery methods are a lot like teaching a young bird how to fly. You can't just toss it into the air and expect it to soar. You let it flap its wings gently, feel the wind, and only then take off. Overcoming isometric is that very first wing flap for your elbow tendons and muscles. It's an isometric exercise, meaning you push or pull against something solid without any obvious movement, so you send a clear recovery signal without causing almost any extra wear. I remember my patient, Carol, 61, who used to love indoor climbing. After developing elbow pain, she was scared to train again because she thought, if I use my arm, it'll hurt. So I handed her a golf club, placed one end against her kitchen door frame, and told her to gently press into it, slowly, increasing the force over 3 seconds, holding for 30 seconds, and then releasing just as slowly. She looked at me surprised, "Doctor, it doesn't hurt. It just feels warm and steady." That's exactly what I wanted, a strong, clear signal to her tendon without scaring it. The beauty of overcoming isometric is you control the exact amount of force. There's no sudden jerk or unexpected load, the stuff that often re-triggers injury. You can do it anywhere with a tennis racket, a golf club, a countertop, even a door frame. Here's how to do it. Pick a position you want to strengthen, for example, elbow bent at 90 degrees, wrist slightly turned inward. Place your hand or an object against a fixed surface. Slowly apply force over 3 seconds, like turning the volume up gradually. Hold that force for 30 seconds, keeping pain at 210. Slowly release, then rest for 2 minutes. Repeat 4 times. You might be thinking, but if I'm just standing still and pushing, how does that help? Here's the thing. When you push against something solid, your muscles and tendons still have to generate force, and your cells still hear that signal. The difference is, you're giving them a safe environment to relearn how to handle load. Today's small lesson. Recovery doesn't always start loud, sweaty, or full of big movements. Sometimes it begins in stillness, where you stand quietly, listen to your body, and teach it how to be strong again, little by little. Once you're comfortable with overcoming isometric, it's time to raise the challenge. In the next part, I'll introduce you to yielding isometric, the next step that builds load tolerance and prepares your elbow to return to the activities you love while still keeping things safe and controlled. Yielding isometric, when you're ready to level up. You know, in every recovery journey there comes a moment when you can feel your body getting stronger. Not because you suddenly lifted a bucket of water with ease, but because the little things, holding a coffee cup, opening a door, carrying a grocery bag, start to feel lighter, more natural. When you've reached that point, it means you're ready for the next challenge, yielding isometric. If overcoming isometric is the learning to walk phase for your tendons, yielding isometric is like standing firm on a bridge while the wind blows. You're not pushing against something. You're holding your ground against a real moving force. In simple terms, you hold a weight or resistance, still resisting its pull to drag your arm down or twist your wrist out of position. It could be a light dumbbell, a cast iron pan, or a resistance band. I remember Robert, 65, a retired carpenter. After a few weeks of overcoming isometric, he told me, "Doc, I can open my woodworking clamps without pain now. I think I'm ready to get back to working with wood." I smiled and said, "Then let's give your arm a taste of holding real load, but still in your control." We started with a small dumbbell, just 3 pounds. Robert held it with his wrist slightly turned inward, keeping it perfectly still for 20-30 seconds. The first sensation wasn't pain, it was a light tremble, as if his tendons and muscles were saying, "Oh, we remember this. Let's get back to it." Week by week, we increased the load, just a little lengthened the hold, and the tremble faded away. Here's the thing, yielding isometric isn't about proving who can hold the heaviest weight. It's about controlled endurance. You're telling your body, learn to hold steady when something tries to move you, and don't lose your form. Ask yourself, when you face pressure, do you resist stiffly or adjust to keep your balance? What could your body, and maybe you, learn from holding steady against something trying to pull you down? Today's small lesson. True strength isn't just about generating force. It's about staying stable when you're tested. Yielding isometric teaches your tendons and muscles exactly that. And it's a good reminder that sometimes standing steady in the middle of change is the biggest victory. Once you're comfortable holding real load, we can put the pieces together into a 10-minute daily recovery routine, just enough to send the right signals and make your tendons and muscles stronger over time. And that's exactly what I'll be sharing with you next. The 10-minute daily recovery routine. You know, most people think recovery requires long, sweaty workout sessions with fancy equipment. But when it comes to the elbow, especially once you're past 50, the real magic often comes from short, consistent sessions done at just the right dose. I still remember Susan, 59, a retired nurse. Years of caring for patients meant her arms were constantly at work, and one day her right elbow simply went on strike. Susan used to think, how could just 10 minutes a day make any real difference? But she gave it a try because really, who can't find 10 minutes? We started with a simple routine, 2 minutes of light warm-up, gentle rotations of the wrist, elbow, and shoulder to get the blood flowing. Overcoming isometric 4 sets, 30 seconds, each resting 2 minutes in between. Yielding isometric 2-3 sets, 20-30 seconds each with a light load. Gentle stretches, 1 to 2 minutes, focusing on the forearm and wrist. Total time just about 10 minutes. But here's the key, doing it daily. Like watering a plant a little bit every day helps the roots grow deep and strong instead of dumping a whole bucket once a week. The power of this routine isn't in its length, it's in its consistency. Each session sends a clear message to your tendons and muscles. We're going to do this every day. Adapt. Get stronger. Ask yourself, could you give your elbow 10 minutes a day, the same way you give yourself 10 minutes every morning for coffee? Do you want to keep living in the pain-rest-pain cycle, or break it with one simple habit? Today's small lesson. Recovery isn't a short-term project. It's a small, daily commitment. When you keep that promise to your body, it will keep its promise to you with the strength, resilience, and freedom of movement you deserve. Once you have your routine, the next step is to optimize the environment that supports healing, from nutrition and sleep to the little-known factors that directly influence tendon recovery speed. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Nutrition and supporting tendon recovery. You know, when we talk about recovery, most people think only about exercise. But I've seen far too many cases fail, not because they trained wrong, but because they forgot that tendons and muscles also need the raw materials to repair themselves. You can't rebuild a bridge without steel and concrete. Your body works the same way. It needs building blocks to repair damaged collagen fibers. I remember Helen, 63, an avid trail runner. After developing Achilles tendonitis, she followed my rehab plan to the letter. The first month she made great progress, but then everything stalled. When I asked more questions, she admitted, "I've been so busy, breakfast is just coffee. Lunch is whatever I can grab, and dinner is my real meal." The problem is, your tendons can't wait until dinner to get the materials they need to rebuild. I suggested Helen try taking hydrolyzed collagen peptides with vitamin C about an hour before her training sessions. Collagen provides special amino acids like glycine and proline to help rebuild tendon fibers. Vitamin C acts like the skilled worker who fastens those fibers together. 6 weeks later, she came back smiling. "Doctor, I ran 5 kilometers without a single twinge in my tendon for the first time in months. Here's what I want you to take away. Collagen peptides supply the materials tendons and ligaments need. Vitamin C ensures your body uses that collagen effectively. High-quality protein from fish eggs, lean meats, beans rebuilds muscle to support the joints. Antioxidants from colorful fruits and vegetables reduce inflammation and protect cells from damage. And don't forget the silent factors. Deep, adequate sleep. Most tissue repair happens while you sleep. Hydration tendons are water-rich connective tissue. Dehydration makes them stiff and less elastic. Stress management. Chronic stress raises hormones that break down tissue. Ask yourself, are you giving your body the raw materials to recover? Or just hoping it can patch itself together out of thin air? If every meal is a brick, are you building a strong bridge or a patchwork one? Today's small lesson. Recovery isn't just about the movements you perform. It's also about what you put into your body and the lifestyle you maintain. Exercise sends the signal, but nutrition and rest are what turn that signal into strong, healthy tissue. Now that you understand both the exercises and the nutrition, we can move to the final part, where I'll leave you with one closing message and one single action you can take starting today. Not just to heal, but to protect your elbows for years to come. Lesson in action for today. You know, after more than 30 years working with hundreds of patients, from mountain climbers and tennis players to folks who just want enough strength to lift their grandkids, I've realized something: most of us don't fail because we lack time or knowledge. We fail because we wait. We wait until it's too late to start. I remember Tom, 68, an avid fisherman. When the elbow pain first started, he thought, "It's probably just the cold," and kept going. 6 months later, he couldn't tie his fishing line without wincing. When he finally came to see me, he said, "I wish I'd started sooner. I just want to cast again without that fear of pain." We started with gentle, overcoming isometric work, added the right nutrition, and little by little he made his way back to his favorite lakeside spot. But I knew, if he'd started earlier, the journey would have been so much easier. Here's what I want you to understand. Every day you delay is another day. Your tendons and muscles lose a bit more adaptability. The good news: recovery doesn't require a giant leap. It starts with one small step today. That step could be picking up a racket or stick and trying 4 rounds of overcoming isometric, mixing a glass of collagen with vitamin C before your session, or simply taking 10 minutes today to warm up and gently move your elbows and wrists. Ask yourself, 1 year from now, how do you want your elbow to feel? Do you want to keep avoiding it? Or use it freely for the things you love without paying the price in pain? Today's small lesson. Recovery doesn't happen in some vague someday. It starts with one concrete action today. When you begin, you're not just healing an arm, you're sending yourself a message: I value this body and I will take care of it. So, choose one thing I've shared with you today and do it the moment you turn off this video. Don't wait for the pain to force you to stop. Start while you still have the choice. And when you notice even the smallest change, I want you to come back here so we can keep walking this path together. Because your body deserves to be heard, cared for, and lived in fully every single day. If what I shared today gave you a new idea, a little spark of motivation, or simply the comfort of knowing you're not alone on this journey, then hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Because I have so many more stories, exercises, and little tips to help you keep your body strong and flexible, not just to ease the pain, but to live more fully every single day. We'll keep walking this road together, one video at a time, and I truly hope to see you in the next one.